So welcome everybody to my book launch. This has been a project. It's about 10 years in the making. So it feels really exciting to have folks tuning in, seeing a lot of amazing faces here that helped make this magic happen. So welcome, guys. As a teacher, trying to think of a fun way to have us think deeply about the lunar eclipse that's happening tonight. And I gave us a little prompt. How would you like to grow this coming year? So I'm just going to pop in that chat and see. All right, awesome. So let us jump in. I'm going to just kind of start with some welcomes, some introductions, and share a little bit about my novel that's coming out, coincides with the lunar eclipse. I'm going to talk a little bit about how lunar and solar eclipse kind of work throughout my novel as well, some upcoming events, where to find the book, Q&A. Then we're going to have a really exciting 8:30 to 9:30 talk about eclipses. There's so much lore and there's so much kind of history behind how we viewed eclipses over time. I'm really excited to have Kevin Watkins kind of share some really exciting history and space overlap. So then from 9:30, I'm going to invite you to check out the eclipse if you can see it, or you could live stream it via NASA's website, which is always a good view. All right, so tonight we are counting down the lunar eclipse, doing a little bit of stargazing, setting some intentions, sparking some magic, and celebrating publication of my novel, which I was saying, it's been a long time coming. If you know me, I've probably talked your ear off already about it. Tonight's special guests, we have Kevin Watkins, educator and photographer. We have Christopher Eads as well, which I'm really excited to have on. It is his birthday today, so give him a round of applause. Thank you for tuning in with us on your special day. We've got Erin Glassworks, got an exciting collaboration that we're going to share today. And I've got Rachel Kobin, who has been my editor on this project and just kind of really helped me take this piece, work it through, in addition to a whole host of other editors and friends who really helped me prune this piece back. So I'm really excited to have a lot of you guys here. All right, so a little bit about me. A lot of you guys already know about me, but I will just share. I'm an artist, writer, filmmaker, and educator. This project, my first novel, has been about a decade in the making, so I'm really excited to share it with you guys. I've thought a lot about it. It's been through a lot of revisions. This is my 7th year teaching art in Philadelphia. You can see at the bottom here is actually me in this same space that you see behind me. This is where I've had been teaching virtually for a year or so. This year, I've been an adaptive art teacher teaching life skills support and autistic support at Olney Charter High School. Hands down, my absolute favorite teaching job. It really has taught me a lot. As a creative, I love to collaborate in the art classroom and on creative projects. I have my bachelor's degree in art education, my master's from International Institute of Restorative Practice. I'm working on my disability studies certificate from Temple. So that's relatively new, and that's something I've been really interested in, possibly getting a second master's in special ed, because I think it's a really, really important field to dig deeper in. So I'm gonna jump into talking a little bit about this book. So I'm just gonna share some of the backing of the book. This has been online. Just wanted to kind of loop everybody in if this is a new story folks are stumbling upon. So 18-year-old Ava Luna puts her future on hold to care for her mother in the days leading up to a risky surgery. Coinciding with the seasons and cycles of the moon, the 4 parts of this novel tackle family dynamics and mental and physical health as it follows Ava Luna's quest for independence, assertiveness, and wholeness. Writing in her journal, Ava Luna tries to make sense of her life. Her parents split when she was 13 in a bitter divorce that tore the family apart. She comforted herself by creating her own story for why they could no longer be together, where she likened her mom to the moon and her dad to the sun. In this delicate and magical tale, Mama Moon and Papa Sun are independent forces that remain separate, but can briefly exist together in harmony. As her mom's surgery looms, Ava sees the cycle begin once more as her dad lends his support and her brother Ray sets his resentments aside, and they start feeling like a normal family again. Adding to Ava Luna's renewed hope, she has secretly rekindled a relationship with a past boyfriend, Sol, at the weekly contra dance her parents attended when they dated. She hopes this period of alignment will last forever. Tensions mount when her mom is not recovering as planned, and deep-seated resentments amongst Ava Luna's family come bubbling to the surface. She tries to hold the remnants of her family together, but a breach of trust threatens to cause a permanent rift between everyone. Ava Luna runs away in an attempt to find clarity from the moon, the ocean, a psychic, and her lingering lost love, only to find the answers in an unexpected place herself. So I was really fortunate to collaborate with Little Creek Press in creating the artwork for this piece, in using a similar color palette to the children's book that I put out, had a very similar theme, but for a different audience. So the novel's dedication, I think, is one of the really important parts of this piece. This piece is dedicated to anyone who's been impacted by divorce or mental and physical illness, or both. Specifically, because the protagonist's mother has health issues and embarks on a risky surgery. In writing about this piece and kind of diving deep into the subject matter of chronic illness, it has its own language, which I think is really important to learn about as somebody who's loving someone who has mental or physical illness, or if that's something you've come across in your own journey. So one of the words that I came across is the word spoonie. So a spoonie can refer to an individual who suffers from a chronic illness. The term was coined by an award-winning blogger and patient advocate who was trying to explain to her friend what it was like to live with lupus. So her explanation came when she laid out a handful of spoons on the table and shared that the spoons symbolize all of the patient's daily energy reserves. So no matter how thoughtless or automatic an activity could be, like, it still depletes that person's energy. This is something that is very true to the heart of the novel. So I definitely wanted to kind of make that really right at the front. Another thing that is really key to this story as well is this quote from Viktor Frankl, which is, "What is to give light must endure burning." So Viktor Frankl was a very awesome guy, did some really amazing work in regards to being a neurologist and a psychiatrist. His therapeutic approach of logotherapy really revolutionized my world when I was reading Man's Search for Meaning. It's based on the premise that the primary motivational force of an individual is to find a meaning in life through, and he gives these three ways: through work and hobbies, through experiencing life and people, love, and through developing a positive attitude. And this quote actually ends up making an appearance towards the end of the novel, and it really came as in a later draft. So I think it was really kind of a serendipitous way of how this kind of worked its way in. Now I'm going to do that thing where I thank everybody for helping me make this thing happen, because it's not just one person, it is so many people helping make a project. So I wanted to take this time to really share my acknowledgements and gratitude. Writing this coming of age story has been a coming of age experience for me. I've grown as a storyteller, artist, and person alongside this project. I've learned so much about myself along the way. Writing and art making have always been comforts that have gotten me through challenging times. This novel is rooted in real trauma that my family faced, but the characters have taken off on their own journeys over the years. I'm so thankful for the lessons they have taught me. The novel is in no way a memoir, and this is what makes writing fiction so freeing and liberating. It allows you to explore other possibilities. Working with universal themes of family dynamics and mental and physical health, I've learned that even though intergenerational trauma is genetic, so is intergenerational resilience, and that is what is most important. Thank you to my therapist who helped me use narrative therapy to realize how storytelling can help us make order from the chaos. We are the stories we tell ourselves, and creation myths are one way we can take some control back in our lives. I'm thankful for years of good mentors who helped me become grounded and adaptable. I've always been a curious person, asking why we are here and where is this leading. I've explored some of these big essential questions through writing this book. It has been a decade in the making. It started as a story that I conceived early on in college and wrestled with in journal entries, artwork, short stories, and filmmaking. After all these years, it just wouldn't leave me, even though there were times I wanted to abandon it because of how painful soul-searching and editing can be. So to prune it back year after year in drafts that I shared with friends, family, fellow writers, other artists, editors, etc., until it developed into the version you are reading today. This story connected me with so many incredible people who helped nurture me as a creative. Thank you all for reading early versions riddled with grammar issues, spelling mistakes, plot holes, and inconsistencies. Your feedback, suggestions, and encouragement helped me whittle things down to the essentials. I'm blessed to be surrounded by committed, talented, and bright individuals who inspired me to finish what I started. This book would not have been written without my life-sustaining friends and family. So here is my complete as possible list of people to thank. So thank you to the contra dance community that always recharges my soul. A special thank you to the Glenside contra dance community specifically, which now resides in Mount Airy at the Commodore Berry Club. For many years of Thursday night contra dances that always spark the magic of mind, body, and soul. Thank you to all the amazing books I've read that have shaped me into the writer I am today. I'm thankful to all the coffee shops that let me set up camp in their stores while I read, wrote, edited, and workshopped drafts with peers. Thank you to Asbury Park, New Jersey, and Enchanting Open Waters, where I also did a lot of my writing and journaling. Thank you to my creative writing classes, writing clubs, and writing groups for helping me hone my craft. As a teacher myself, I know how important it is to encourage education, creative play, and the sharing of ideas. From these endeavors comes power. I'm thankful for all my teachers from high school and college who let me grow and experiment as a storyteller and meaning maker. I'm especially grateful to my high school English and art teachers for encouraging a love of the written word and opening a new world to me at an impressionable age. Thank you to Janet Benton, skillful author and motivating mentor. Thank you for recognizing my work at the Bucks County Short Fiction Contest and cultivating my voice as a young writer at your kitchen table by inviting me into your home. Thank you, Louis Fantini, gifted writer, decisive editor, passionate educator, and beloved friend. Thank you for being one of my first readers. I am in debt to your guidance, direction, your comments, responses, and suggestions are always on point, and you truly helped me shape my writing skills so that my words sparkled. Your high school English students are so lucky to have you. Thank you, John Delp, talented writer and thoughtful editor. You've helped me grow as a writer. Your character analysis of my later drafts helped me tighten up my characters' backstories. Thank you for always being so generous with your time and always following up regarding my many questions. Thank you to everyone at Little Creek Press who made me feel welcome and gave this novel a home. Thank you to Kristen Mitchell, talented designer, for your expertise and special touch on this project. Thank you, Christopher Eads, for your creative collaboration in making an illustration for this novel and our work together on Like the Sun Holds the Moon, a children's book, which also addresses how families change and drift apart. Making that book was a catharsis, and I'm so glad it is out in the world and can help bring hope to those struggling to make sense of something painful. And with this version, for a young adult audience, I was able to go deeper with similar topics of separation and divorce. Thank you for being a part of this magic and being one of my first readers. Thank you to Rachel Kobin, wise editor, encouraging coach, and accomplished writer, for loving Ava Luna's voice from the first sentence to the last. Thank you for always being a champion of my work. Your gifted counsel and thoughtful feedback helped see this book to its completion. Thank you for teaching me the ins and outs of the heroine's journey. Your meticulous notes regarding scene analysis and character arcs truly changed me as a writer and a person. Thank you for connecting me with a network of amazing authors via the Philadelphia Writers Workshop. Thank you to my parents, whose shoulders I stand on and who always encouraged my creativity at a young age, even when it involved directing and casting you and my sister and cousins to star in my productions. Thank you for giving my 10-year-old scripts a chance, no matter how bad they were. And trust me, they were bad. Thank you, Dad, for always being ready to record with your giant bulky camera. Adventures in Space truly set the stage for the imagery, stars, space, moons, and curiosity I would be interested in forever. It is a powerful through line that has stayed consistent. Thank you for your pep talks, loyalty, dependability, and eternal optimism. Thank you for tolerating me all those years when I was way too into Harriet the Spy and always on the hunt to capture authentic dialogue using my silver voice recorder that you bought me that one Christmas. Thank you, Mom, for always reminding me to look up and notice the magic of the universe, especially the quantum leap that caterpillars make when they transition to butterflies. You are strong, fearless, curious, and one of a kind. Thank you for teaching me to read and write when I struggled with it in first grade. Some of my favorite early childhood memories are sitting with you at the kitchen table and crafting stories and drawings for my spelling words in a composition book. I spent many hours writing and editing this book at that same table many years later. Thank you for instilling a love of writing, journaling, and prayer. Thank you for creating an environment in which books were important and exciting while I was young. Embracing literacy from a young age certainly has impacted my life. Thank you for always having good books in the house and never giving up on me. Above all, thank you to my husband for your unconditional love and support. My life with you is one of my greatest joys and sources of growth. My home is wherever you are, and you are downstairs in the kitchen. Thank you for tolerating hours, I'm telling you, hours of my focus music, repetitively maddening synthwave and looping guitar. That is, thank you, Caleb, for dealing with all of those hours of music. For my constant requests for opinions or feedback regarding almost 2 identical options, and for letting me spread out my writing stuff on the kitchen table day after day. You accept me for who I am. You're my absolute compliment, teammate, equal, and perfect companion. Thank you for always being a champion of my work. I love every single thing about you. So I'm going to quickly throw it over to Chris, just if he wants to say a few words. Again, happy birthday, Chris. I'm so glad you're able to tune in. And I just really want to thank you for all of the collaboration we've done in kind of different creative spheres. We've done work with the kids book, with an animation I'm going to show a little snippet of, and hopefully many more things to come.
Thank you for the birthday wishes and also for having me on and inviting me to this chat. It's been amazing to see how your ideas have grown over the years, starting from, when I was first introduced to this project, working on the children's book version of this project. It's been awesome, and I'm looking forward to reading the novel in full, but just looking at the synopsis, I can tell it's come a long way from the first draft that I read a while back, and it's exciting and cathartic to see a story about topics that I'm also affected by as well, being from a divorced family growing up. Thanks for involving me in this project. We worked together on the children's book, and I worked together with another illustrator to illustrate that book with you. That was really awesome. That was like my first illustrated book that I did in full. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next steps.
This was an animation that we actually made inspired by the kids book. Again, dealing with very similar themes. I'm just going to play a short little moment of this because I think it's really beautiful. So now I want to throw it over to Rachel Kobin. I mentioned her in my acknowledgements. I really also want to give a super awesome shout out to the Philadelphia Writers Workshop. They really helped me grow as a writer. I think, in the creative field, it's so important to collaborate as much as possible and to get feedback and to run ideas by other people. And I think this group really helped me, hone my voice, get some feedback on projects that I was working on. So I'm gonna throw it over to Rachel.
I know what it can be like to spend 10 years working on a project. So I do want to say that I think a lot of people, I know a ton of people who have amazing ideas, who have a lot of creativity, but one thing I really admire about you, Joy, is your follow through. To finish this, to do everything you've done with it, to do the children's book and all the filmmaking, just everything that you're doing, even just to have this event, I really want to commend you, because it's one thing to have an idea and write the book. It's a whole other thing to follow through on it, bring it to fruition, and really get it out there. So I wanted to give you kudos for that. And just say this is exactly why I do what I do, because I love seeing this happen. So And I am glad you mentioned collaboration. I mean, this couldn't have happened without collaboration. And I think every idea gets better with collaboration, but then you have to know where to hold your ground.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%. I think
Yes.
that's a really good lesson from the editing process. Being able to consider an alternate idea or viewpoint, and then, you know, kind of seeing how that fits with your internal kind of intuition, right? It's a whole process. So absolutely. Thank you for those kind words. And I definitely advocate for getting connected to a writer group because it really helps you grow and develop. I'm going to throw it over to Erin Glassworks. I'm really excited about this collaboration we've got cooking up. And I'm going to throw it over to her to just kind of say hello and that we've got something really fun to share soon.
Hi, everyone. I am Erin of Erin Glassworks. I am a stained glass artist based out of Tampa Bay, Florida. I recently did a collaboration with Alfred A. Knopf Publishing for Ishiguro's recent book, Clara and the Sun, where they asked me to turn the book cover into a stained glass piece. And I really loved doing that because not only is it an absolutely gorgeous book cover, but I loved the symbolism, if you've read the book, the symbolism and importance of light throughout the book. I felt like that was very fitting to turn into glass. And when Joy sent me an email asking if I wanted to collaborate with her on her recent book, and she sent me a synopsis of it, I was thrilled. I really loved the connections and the meaning of light throughout this story. I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to reading it. She said she's putting a copy in the mail for the giveaway tomorrow. And she sent me a couple images and we went back and forth on it, and we settled on this eclipse image. Excited to see some representation for these difficult issues in a digestible form for an audience that really needs to see this stuff.
I'm definitely excited, specifically with this medium, just the kind of magic element that light kind of plays into with the viewing of the object. I think there's a lot of beautiful magic and symbolism that can come from our final piece. And my publisher can't be here. She is with her daughter, who is having a graduation celebration. So I do want to shout out Little Creek Press. Working with them has been amazing. I am just so thankful to have connected with them and to just be on the shelf with some of their amazing other books that are also for sale. So if you're interested, I definitely recommend, if you're going to buy it online, go to their store and buy it, because it's better than Amazon. Support smaller businesses. So now I want to share a little bit about the contra dance community within the setting of this novel. So I created about 40-minute documentary back in 2016 about contra dance. It's a small folk dance in which pairs face each other in two lines or a square. It is a mix of English ballroom dancing and swing dancing. It is a lot of fun. Either seeing contra dance or being a part of it is really the best way to understand it. The contra dance community, like I mentioned, is the setting of this novel. I have featured here a couple photos that I took about a decade ago. They are portraits from the dancers in my contra dance community, specifically the Glenside Contra Dance group that then moved over to Mount Airy at the Commodore Barry Club. The main character's parents met in a contra dance group, and that's kind of like where the setting is for that. So themes of magic are woven throughout the novel, and I'm actually going to be bringing a contra dance to the book launch block party that is on Saturday the 21st. So I'm excited to have actually the two folks that performed for Caleb and I's wedding to play for this contra dance. So it really is near and dear to my heart, and bringing some magic and some community back to folks, because I think especially with COVID, connecting again is just really, really important. So now we get into some fun stuff. I'm super excited for this next little section. Tonight's Super Flower Blood Moon Lunar Eclipse. It is a mouthful. It is a super long title, but I'm gonna share a few things about this, and then I'm gonna throw it over to have us have a little lesson from Mr. Watkins. Are you really gonna teach this to your kids tomorrow? Because I think that's gonna be awesome.
Oh, that's very, very ambitious if we're getting into the fall of Constantinople with middle schoolers. Not sure.
Oh, that'd be so cool. All right, so I'm gonna share just a little bit about this. So tonight, the sun, moon, and earth will align for a total lunar eclipse, which occurs when the earth moves into place between the sun and the full moon. As a result, the earth casts a giant shadow across the lunar surface, giving the moon a striking reddish hue, which is why lunar eclipses are also referred to as blood moons. Tonight's full moon is also considered a supermoon. So the total lunar eclipse will be visible from all these places listed here. And we will be hopefully able to see some of its magic. So moon magic and lore, eclipses can symbolize a whole bunch of things, but specifically I think the most I've found is that it can really symbolize transformation and growth. So the super blood flower moon can be seen as a point in our lives where we're supposed to prepare for new chapters by tying up any loose ends. It's time to part with things that prevent you from living an abundant life. And if you know anything about me, let it be known that I am obsessed with the flower show, so that this coincides with the full flower moon for May is a really exciting little tidbit that I didn't realize until maybe a couple weeks ago. I'm going to go ahead and just read a little bit from the novel itself. The novel has 4 parts to it, and it really goes through the heroine's journey of going from fool to the magician. That's kind of the arc that I've used, and it pertains to some tarot card readings that are featured. I'm going to just read a little section specifically today since it is the eclipse, and each chapter is devoted to a specific phase of the lunar cycle. I wanted to just start here, and we'll see as far as we can get. So this is chapter 5, Eclipse. Under the cover of my eyelids, I hear running water from the nearby bathroom and the clanking of a razor on the porcelain tub. It is a familiar and unmistakable sound. Confused and dazed, I respond by getting up. I take a look at the clock. I hate waking up before my alarm because I usually can't fall back to sleep. Today is the day. It is the morning of Mom's surgery. The stargazer is still projecting a map of the sky on the ceiling, and Bo and Ray are cuddled in a wild pile of blankets on a very sunken air mattress. I maneuver around them and tiptoe out of the room. I walk to the bathroom door, which is open, a crack, and I see Mom in her long nightgown and robe. Her glasses are at the bridge of her nose. Her hair is dark and long and hanging in her face as she shaves her shin in an awkward position while holding onto the edge of the tub. I knock lightly. Mom startles with a jump and grabs her heart. She drops her razor. I didn't know anyone else was up, she whispers. Why are you up this early? I ask. We don't need to get up for another hour. And why are you shaving your legs? I enter and take a seat on the closed toilet seat. I hand her the razor that I know she cannot retrieve from the floor. Couldn't sleep anymore. My dreams were upsetting me. I woke up crying, she confesses. I'm trying to distract myself. She bends in a different position to shave her shin. I see her strain. She is determined. She is the type of woman who does her makeup before going to a doctor's appointment. Please don't hurt yourself again. You should be resting before this surgery. Come on, let's meditate. We could do some ohms. I yawn dramatically. See, I'm almost there. I joke. She looks up. You know what? That's exactly what I need. She puts down the razor. Even though I'd rather lose myself through dance, I join her sometimes, and right now I'm glad she likes the idea. I help her dry off her feet, which she cannot reach, and retrieve her slippers from the corner of the bathroom. We go to her bed, which is oddly empty. She has packed away most of her objects for the sleepover at the hospital. I start her meditation CD, and we begin by taking some deep breaths. We are synchronized. When I reach for her hand, she squeezes mine lovingly. It does not take long for us to drift in the waves of those inhales and exhales before we know it. We are under the current. I wake up to the silence of the CD. The meditation has ended. I look at the clock in her room and realize that we have a few minutes before the alarm goes off. We are both awake at the same time, looking at each other on our opposite sides. Where did you go? I whisper. I went wherever God is. She smiles and closes her eyes. She turns on her back. I was at the creek again, and the water was high, but it was dark out, and there was a large ring of light, incredibly blinding. I felt a surge of power from its form through the water, and my whole body was electrified, like in a good way. Wow, I gasped. And the tide was washing up on my leg and splashing up on my hip, and I felt no pain, as if I were healed by the shock. I was crying but felt cleansed and then came back into my body and woke up. She opens her eyes. Like time travel? I ask. Yeah, kind of. It felt like a real out-of-body experience. Sometimes when you are totally relaxed, you can just slip out of yourself. Could you see your body lying on the ground below you? Were you afraid? Not quite. I just felt my essence leave my physical frame. I can't really explain it. It felt peaceful. How do you know you were with God? I couldn't see him, but I just knew he was there. She responds as she closes her eyes again. You could still recognize his voice? As if you were talking to someone with your eyes closed? Kind of like that. She opens her eyes and smiles at me. Just then the alarm goes off. It's time, she says. Ray enters Mom's room, and Bo runs past and jumps on the bed. We all sense it. We all want to be close to her. What's that smell? Asked Ray. Whatever it is, it smells amazing. I add, I think your dad is making breakfast. Mom replies, I wish I could have some, but I'm supposed to fast. Mom reaches for a medicine. She gives Bo a capful of Benadryl. He looks it up quickly. Why'd you do that? I asked. I know it will be hard for him today since I'll be away for so long. I don't want him to be destructive while I'm gone. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to show you guys how destructive my dog is being right now. Not at all. Ryder is super chill. If folks are interested in checking out this book, you are welcome to buy it directly from me. I've got a couple events lined up that I'm excited to share about. You're welcome to order it online anywhere books are sold. I do recommend ordering from Little Creek Press in particular to support smaller publishing houses. So quick upcoming event, I've got my book launch block party in-person event I'm really excited about for next Saturday from 4 to 10. I am praying for no rain, even though the rain date is Sunday, the 22nd. I think it's gonna be like 92 degrees. So I'm really hoping it's not that hot, but I think it'll be exciting to share in some magic. Again, also join my mailing list if you want to hear more updates from me. I've got some fun, exciting things to share. Got some cool stickers and free swag that I'll be sharing at different events. I've got some cool, fun Lunar Eclipse classes as well. And now I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Watkins for our lesson on the history of eclipses.
Thanks, Joy. Thanks, everyone. And extra thanks to Joy for inviting me here with friends and family, meeting a lot of people for the first time. So as the slide says, I teach history and English right here in the great city of Philadelphia. And that's no joy. We taught at CHAD together, those of you who know, is that I have a great deal of passion around space and around history and around literature. So I think that I'm in the right place. Eclipses and other natural phenomenon have changed history, which is why I traveled with friends to North Carolina in 2017, which you can see right down there. So yeah, you can see some of my photographs down there. But what I'm most interested in is the question of how eclipses, history connect to what Joy has written here. All right, so I want to hear from some people. We want to hear from some people. So if you can, if you feel so inclined, please describe a time when you have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because prophecy is connected to eclipses and the history of eclipses. I'll say that one of the inspirations of this is a quote from the novel. Apparently, the brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. that means you've got some power to play with the material of the universe. So I've been meditating on this request. I want to connect with the cosmic consciousness. We have my future colleague, Louis, writing here in the chat that he feels like teaching is an exercise in self-fulfilling prophecy. Lots of mornings, you're the only one in the room who believes that we're going to have a positive, productive day. So true, so true. As I like to tell my students, I am faking it until I make it. Why don't you fake it along with me? I guess like any history teacher, I have a story to share. This is not going to be a long story, I promise. So it begins on May 26, 1453. Like any good history lesson, we have a map here in the top right showing us our protagonists and our antagonists, depending on your perspective. That could be either the Ottoman Empire and or the Byzantine Empire, or as they would have called themselves, the Roman Empire. And in 1453, they found themselves at war with each other. The Ottoman Empire was invading the last vestiges of the Byzantine Empire, which at that point was just the capital, the great famous city of Constantinople, not yet Istanbul. By May 26, this really terrible siege had resulted in a very, very terrible stalemate. Neither side was making a lot of progress, but a Christian fleet was on its way from Venice to relieve Constantinople. This fleet was going to be decisive. Everyone knew that when that fleet arrived from Venice, that the Ottomans would be finished, that there was no way that their navy could hold them back. So the Ottomans knew that there were really only two choices available to them. The Ottomans could launch an all-out final attack on the city of Constantinople, or the Ottomans could cut their losses and retreat. There was definitely a lot of talk about retreating, and the Sultan, Mehmed II, was leaning towards retreat. But that's when astronomy and fate would kind of step in. On May 26, 1453, the moon above Constantinople began to turn red like blood, as what appeared to some like a monster began to sort of devour and take bites out of the moon as the darkness crept more and more across the face of the lunar surface. Obviously, back then, this is something that people would not have understood, that they certainly could not have predicted. Like many things in the ancient world that were poorly understood, there was a lot of mythology connected to it. And on this particular evening, unfortunately for the Byzantines, there were two prophecies that were connected to lunar eclipses. The first prophecy was a Byzantine prophecy that you can see here on the screen. Here it is. And then there was another prophecy that when the moon should give a sign in the sky, within a few days, the Turks would have Constantinople. So on the Byzantine side, it was believed that that was the significance of this lunar eclipse, that the lunar eclipse would somehow usher in the apocalypse of Constantinople. On the Ottoman, Muhammad, for their prophecies, and you can see at the bottom of the screen there, here's what Muhammad had to say about eclipses. Muhammad said, "The sun and the moon are two signs of Allah. They are not eclipsed on account of anyone's death or on account of anyone's birth. So when you see them, glorify and supplicate Allah. Observe the prayer, give alms. Now, you could only imagine the scene. We'll imagine it from the Ottoman perspective, looking in on the city of Constantinople. As many Byzantine citizens of Constantinople saw this eclipse rising above them, screams were let loose into the night sky. The Ottomans could have heard the screaming of the people inside the city walls who, in their minds, were facing the apocalypse. If you imagine this scene from the Byzantine perspective, looking out from the city of Constantinople, they would have heard cheering and chants of Allahu Akbar coming from the Ottoman side, as they felt like their self-fulfilling prophecy was coming true. This changed the Ottomans' thinking. The Ottomans, who had just the day before been given serious consideration to retreating, to getting out of there before the Christian fleet arrived, began to think that maybe they should attack. And you can probably see where this is going. Attack they did. The Ottomans went all in, full on charge against the walls of Constantinople, motivated by the firm belief that the heavens and that God himself was on their side. They eventually smashed through the city walls. They got inside, facing absolutely demoralized and terrified defenders of the Byzantines, who thought for sure that the world was about to end. And indeed, for them, the world ended. This changed history. The Roman Empire, which had existed for over 2,000 years, was now finished. Islam had a very, very strong foothold in Europe. So strong that just a few decades later, someone we all know, Christopher Columbus, decided that instead of taking the eastern route the eastern route by land to India, that he could no longer do that. The Europeans could no longer travel east because that route went right through Constantinople. Muslims weren't going to allow that anymore. So Columbus sailed west. That leads to America. That leads to us and all that, right? And a lot of unfortunate consequences for a lot of other people. So in conclusion, I think it's safe to say that eclipses don't necessarily change history. There's nothing actually affecting change that is coming from the moon and the sun itself. I think instead it's safe to conclude that people allow eclipses to change history. Here's something for everyone to think about. Since I'm a teacher, I don't want people just looking at the eclipse and not having thoughts. Thoughts are kind of important in all matters, especially an occasion like this. So, what might tonight's lunar eclipse prophesize for you? When you're looking up there at the eclipse, the same way the Byzantines and the Ottomans looked up at the eclipse, what kind of prophecies do you want to put out there into the universe that you want to see come true? These could be prophecies for yourself that you want to see manifest in your life. These could be prophecies that you want to see on a global level. We have Louis, of course, mentioning the Phillies making the playoffs. Always a noble and unfortunately often a futile hope. Louis, I have to tell you the story about how I was there at Game 5 when the Phillies won the World Series against Tampa back in 2008. That was pretty magical. And we have Joy saying that she wants to see growth and transformation for herself. Always elusive, always important. And of course, Joy is also noting, as an amendment here, also want to see peace in the world. Absolutely. Peace in Ukraine. KT and Kyle noting less gun violence. Yeah, I hear you, KT. I know as a teacher, especially as a teacher who once served and will soon be serving in a citywide school, whenever I hear gunshots in our city, I always think man, I hope that wasn't anyone I know. So yeah, Joy mentioning protection of women's rights. Absolutely. Jess mentioning finding a new career path. Ooh, let's see what Grace says here. Grace says, I prophesize that Louis will become more realistic about Philadelphia sports. JK, but that those of us who stake too much of our emotional well-being in sports will find fellowship in each other. Hey, I want to defend escapism. Escapism is important. Without these outlets, we wouldn't be able to make the changes that we need. Joy mentioning needing good leadership in politics, hashtag election, hashtag vote. Couldn't possibly agree more. I know when my students at Chad, Joy, when they would complain about Trump, it just got to the point where especially with the seniors, I just kept a stack of voter registration forms, and I would just tell them, like, enough talking, like, here you go. Stacy mentioning more unity throughout the world, and personally more growth and getting things done and less procrastination. Amen to all of that. We got a vote here for environmental justice. Erin, who, by the way, I want to say Erin makes absolutely incredible stained glass art. A greater sense of community for everyone, local and global. I think a lot of our problems, personal and national, stem from isolation and a lack of community to connect to. Reminds me of that all important hashtag of solidarity. Oh, just mentioning here, I would like for this Watkins guy to tell me a nice history story every night forevermore. Excellent teacher voice. Oh, thanks, Jess. Of course, those of us familiar with how teachers are evaluated would know that the best teacher voice would be student voices. Now I'm moving away from podcasts and toward the domain of rambling. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to Joy for inviting me in here to share some history and to talk some eclipses. Very much appreciated. And I look forward to reading the whole book. I appreciate some of the advanced copies there that gave me some ideas.
Thank you so much, Watkins. That was inspiring, got us talking, got us moving and grooving. I'm just so thankful to have been able to have you collaborate on this and help us see that intersection of space and history, and kind of really just showing a really awesome story and getting us talking. So again, we got our countdown for the super flower blood moon lunar eclipse. I'm really excited for this. I think this is going to be something that can really inspire people, center people, reset people. I think, I would hope that this event tonight gave you a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of inspiration, and given us the countdown for the eclipse. If you get a super awesome picture of the eclipse tonight, feel free to use the hashtag like the sun holds the moon. Feel free to tag me. I'd love to, or just send it to me, text it to me. I'd love to see it. I will also be trying to capture a cool picture. I think there's just a lot of magic when people come together, when people tell stories, and when people take part in kind of celestial events like this, right? Like, it's something people have been doing for years and years. And there's still a lot of stuff we don't know. There's a lot of stuff we've found out through science, but I think there's just this little nugget of magic that I'm hoping that my story is able to bring you, in addition to a couple exciting events that we've got cooking up. That means go get your cameras, go get your journal. Think positive as our eclipse is approaching. And thank you so much for being here and celebrating so many things. Thanks, my son. I'm gonna pause there. Say thanks. What do you want to do?
Do-si-do. And do that two-hand turn with your partner. Just do a two-hand turn. Looking good. And promenade. Promenade. Two hands crossed and walking that way. Walking, walking. Face the center. Join hands. Go into the center. 4 little steps. And do it again. Go into